Hey all, Prince B back with some more E3 coverage, this time for Sony. So, starting off, Sony opened with The Last Guardian, and it looked amazing! Again, I don't have a lot of experience with games outside of Nintendo. I own a PlayStation 2 and I have 2 games for it, and outside of that, pretty much exclusively Nintendo. I do watch other people play these games though, so I do have background information about Shadow of the Colossus, which, while it's not confirmed, a lot of people are saying that this is a third part of like a trilogy with that and another one called Ico or Eco. I don't know how it's pronounced, but again, I'm not completely up to date, so if I'm getting anything wrong, don't crucify me for it. This is just basic background knowledge. Outsider looking in, that's my viewpoint for just about everything that's not Nintendo. Anyway, like I said, it looked amazing. I would be down to play this game. We didn't get a whole lot about it. It showed some like jumping and climbing mechanics, and it kind of introduced the main two characters, I would assume. The boy and some gigantic beast that's like a eagle, bird, dog, cat thing. It looked freaking awesome. It was incredibly amazing. It brought the hype. Pass. Yes, that is a game to be interested in. Like I said, the graphics were great. It was a great way for Sony to start off the event. Following it up, they had a new IP called Horizon Zero Dawn. Yeah. And it was post-apocalyptic, maybe? It wasn't like a post-apocalyptic in the sense of like nuclear fallout, like Fallout 4, or like a meteor came and hit the Earth. It was more kind of a mystery thing. Like, they didn't really say what caused the apocalypse, but like power went out for cities across the world, and then nature started to take the world back from civilization. And so then there were descendants of the original humans, and they are trying to survive or something, and they're like robot dinosaurs. I don't understand that, but robot dinosaur. Hype. That looked really good. We didn't get we didn't see a lot of the in-depth gameplay functions, but for an overview, we did get some gameplay, and it looked really good. I was pretty excited about that. Not as excited as The Last Guardian, but still really, really strong follow-up. I'm really curious to know what caused the power to go away and what started everything, and just I want to know more. So another good strong presentation on that one. Following that up was Hitman. I think that's a franchise with like a movie and some other games in it. I'm honestly not a huge movie buff, so I don't know. But I feel like I've seen it somewhere before. It didn't really hold my attention. It was like a cutscene thing, and overall it was meh. I didn't care for it at all. It didn't even get as much time as the first two on the screen, so I don't know. It felt like they glossed over it. There's hardly anything to really talk about with it. There wasn't any real gameplay, and it's also just not something I'm interested in. So I'm going to give it a miss, partially because they didn't show us anything really, and partially because I just don't care, honestly. Street Fighter V, and I don't have a lot of experience with Street Fighter. I don't play a lot of fighting games. Smash is actually pretty much the only one I enjoy to any extent. And from what I saw, it was actually pretty cool. It looked really interesting. That may just be the Ryu hype from Nintendo talking. But speaking of which, this is a PlayStation exclusive, which is actually kind of surprising. I don't keep up with Street Fighter. I know that their like last relevant game on Nintendo was back on the 64, I think, or the SNES. I don't really remember. But with Rio and Smash and all, I kinda expected a Wii U port. Uh, I mean, Ryu, aren't you supposed to be hanging out with Mario? What are you doing? Uh, Not a huge Street Fighter fan again, but I'm just kind of surprised. I don't really care. It's not a huge loss to me, but more just interesting rather than a good or a bad thing. Just, it is what it is. Uh, Following that up was a new game called No Man's Sky. I have no idea what the point of that was. I kind of lost track while at the very beginning of that, so I don't know what the point of it is. But it looks pretty impressive, actually. It's some sort of space exploration game with a ton of solar systems, and each solar system has its own planet around it, and all the planets are supposed to be fully explorable, is what it sounded like. Maybe I just wasn't interpreting that correctly, but it looks interesting and it looks massive. The graphics aren't on par with some of the other things Sony was showing, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Graphics aren't by any means everything. It's more about artistic direction than just how the graphics look. But even with the artistic direction, it wasn't anything that I was super excited about. Anyways, maybe something to keep an eye on. No real strong feelings either way. After that came Dream Builder, which was a really interesting concept. You like take and you can like draw and create all these different things like pictures or sculptures or something. It's kind of confusing. It was an interesting concept, but I can easily see this one going horribly wrong if PlayStation doesn't keep an eye on it, because it looks like it's some kind of network thing where you share it with other people and they add on to your experience or your design and it mixes and remakes and everything. It could easily go horribly wrong. And I say that not because there's anything inherently wrong with the idea. The idea is very fascinating. I'm saying that because Miiverse stage for Smash launched yesterday. And in the very short time on there, the amount of bad Miiverse posts with just inappropriate content for the Nintendo's family friendliness, just like trash posts where it's not saying anything, spoilers, things like that, mainly just horribly inappropriate things, is staggering. So these art pieces kind of make the stage not worth playing. And to bring it around to what I'm getting at, basically if PlayStation doesn't monitor what people are making and doing with the Dream Builder thing, I could see it go very wrong with a lot of all over the builder thing. So I think it's a fantastic idea. It has a lot of potential. The concept looks really promising if PlayStation keeps up on it. Following up after Dream Builder was a game called Firewatch, which didn't see a whole lot with that. Graphically, again, like the weird thing Bethesda had made that they were making, it looked and reminded me a lot of Team Fortress 2 graphics. Maybe that's just me though. I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention. It didn't grab my attention like some of the other things they had. Again, they didn't show a lot in terms of gameplay, and with no real idea what it's actually about or what kind of features are in it, I'm going to give it a miss. Next was Destiny: The Taken King. Yeah, I didn't see any appeal to the first one, but I've heard a lot of mixed reviews. I've heard people say it's fantastic and they couldn't put it down. I've heard people say it was garbage and they didn't want anything to do with it. And I've heard people who thought it was an interesting concept and they really wanted to get into it, but they just couldn't. So mixed bag there. But so I don't really have any strong opinions on it because it didn't appeal to me, and I've heard everywhere, all over the place with it. If you liked the first one, you're probably interested in the second one, and that's pretty much all I have to say about Destiny. Next was Assassin's Creed Syndicate. There are so many Assassin's Creed games that I can't keep track of any of them, and I've never played any of them. I have the most basic idea of what the point is, or what goes on in those games. But I never really cared for it, like I said. And this one didn't do anything to change that. It didn't introduce anything that made me extremely hyped. It didn't introduce anything that made me say, ugh, I don't want anything to do with this. It was just, it left me indifferent. So, same thing as Destiny. If you enjoy Assassin's Creed, you probably already have your own feelings about it, and you don't need me to tell you. Next came the Final Fantasy portion, which they introduced a new Final Fantasy called World of Final Fantasy, and the characters were so cute. I've never been huge into Final Fantasy. I played a little bit of 6, and it was really hard for me. I played the Crystal Chronicle games, actually. I want to do a review of the GameCube, the first Crystal Chronicle game, because that's the one I own. So, overall, in terms of main story Final Fantasy games, I have very limited experience. I don't know if this is a spin-off or a main story, but yeah, the chibi size played into, they have a size mechanic apparently where you can shrink or grow your characters, and they turn into a little chibi size when they're small, and they're super adorable and cute, and they turn into a more normal Final Fantasy-esque style when they're the normal size, and you can shrink and grow to like ride on monsters or to carry monsters on your head, and it just looked really adorable. Honestly, I would be down to play that one. Yeah, the size mechanic is interesting. Minish Cap HD confirmed. That said, while it appeals to me, I'm not sure how it'll appeal to more hardcore Final Fantasy fans. I'm really big into the chibi aesthetic, but other people may be like, oh, this isn't Final Fantasy. I don't want this. It looks like a kid's game. So, I mean, I understand it probably isn't something for everyone. I could easily see it being indifferent for a lot of people, but for me, I would be down to play it. But for those Final Fantasy fans who don't like the chibi style, they might be interested in what came immediately after, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Again, I don't know a lot about Final Fantasy, but I know that a lot of people love 7 in particular. That's the one with Sephiroth and Cloud, and see, I do know a little bit of background information. Yeah, it looked really impressive. It looked gorgeous. Like, I've seen the Advent Children movie, and it looked a lot closer to like that kind of CGI style, really gorgeous graphics compared to the blocky polygons of PlayStation's yesteryears. But I'm not sure if it's a full remake, just a new paint job, or if they're going to change or overhaul mechanics. So it'll be interesting to see what direction that goes. And as someone unfamiliar but who wants to get into Final Fantasy, I think that's pretty interesting. Also, props to Sony for taking both the Final Fantasy games and talking about them at the same time instead of splitting it across half their presentation. Looking at you, EA. Next, another gauntlet of indie games that I didn't really care about. A lot of them were so violent, I got sick of looking at it, and I just turned away until it was done. I don't like that gore. If you do, then maybe that's something you want to look into. I didn't even catch any of the names. After that was Shenmue 3, which they aren't actually announcing the game itself. They're announcing a Kickstarter to fund the game. It's another one I'm not familiar with, but it's not even a new thing to show, since it's not like a trailer for the game even, or even the concept art. It's just kind of the idea of a promise of a game. So I'm not wild about that. But from what I looked up on the Kickstarter page right before I started this review, it's been a little bit after the Twitch stream, and I stopped to finish editing my EA video, and it's already, as of this recording, just a little bit after the Twitch stream, breaking $1 million funded. Wow, the hype is real. I may have to look into this series. Like, the little clips they showed of, like, I guess maybe the older games or something in the series, they looked interesting, so maybe there's something to look into there. But I'm still not completely sold on the idea of a Kickstarter for that. Batman Arkham Knight followed up Shenmue 3. I don't honestly care the slightest about Batman, even though it is fun to say, I'm Batman. I never have, probably never will. Though it was funny, it looked like while they were showing the gameplay, it looked like the character got stuck on a booth while walking to on their path or whatever. I think maybe they had a glitch, or maybe it was intentional, or maybe they were actually playing it and they ran into a booth and they got stuck on it for a minute. I don't know. That aside, from what I saw, it looked fine graphically and what little gameplay was there. So, but again, it's not something I find terribly interesting, and they didn't show us a whole lot. What is there looks solid, though. So if you're a Batman fan, good for you. Alright, last segments. Following Batman was Project Morpheus, which was another VR set. Its design looks so stupid. Like, you look like a moron wearing that thing, honestly. I think Microsoft's design for their Holo set thing, it looked better than Project Morpheus. And I mean, that doesn't impact how the gameplay itself looks. The gameplay looked solid from what they showed us. But yeah, the design, they should work on that. Just my opinion on that. But after that, a collective groan went out from not only myself, but many of the people I follow on Twitter who were also watching the event, and I imagine many, many more. Yes, they announced Call of Duty Black Ops 3. More guns, more repetitive gameplay. I've always thought the Call of Duty games were really stupid. I mean, if that's your thing, more power to you. You can find enjoyment in something I can't, and that's pretty cool. But from my point of view, I've never cared, and I will never care. Nothing they can do can change that. And I think a lot of people share my sentiments that it's kind of tired, it's played out. And anyways, has no interest for me. If you like Call of Duty, I'm not going to sway you more than likely, and you've probably already made up your mind if you like it or not. So, again, you're probably already excited for it. As for me, I take my shooters with a little more color, a la Splatoon, and less brown and gray. I don't know if they added new things. It looked like there were robots. I don't know if that was something that was already a thing in the Call of Duty series. Looked kind of like they were just trying to be like hip and edgy. I think I saw someone mention that teleporting was new, but again, I don't know. I'm not interested in the same thing copy and pasted over and over again. I'm going to give that a miss personally because I don't see the appeal, and I think it's something, if you like it, you already know you like it. You don't need me to tell you that you like it. After that came Disney Infinity announcing its Star Wars figurine line. I do collect Amiibo, as you probably know. And it's not just because it's Nintendo. I'm I want to do a video talking about why I love Amiibo, as opposed to Disney Infinity, Skylanders, or the new Lego thing, which I saw on YouTube's stream. But part of it is I just don't like the concept of needing the figure to play the game, as opposed to where Amiibo, it's more of an added bonus. If you have the Amiibo, you don't need it to access the game itself. But that's neither here nor there. Also, I don't like the style that the Disney Infinity figures, and I don't like the way they look. They don't look the same as the standard Disney characters to me. But they just don't look as high quality. But with that in mind, what I did see of the Star Wars ones, while they didn't look the same as the characters from the movie, obviously they're live action characters, but they did look good. They looked high quality for Disney Infinity. So I'll say good job to that. Then after the Disney Infinity Star Wars stuff, there was some more Star Wars info, more Battlefront. I already gave my thoughts on Battlefront in the other video. I do still think, after watching the little bit of more content we saw here, that it is superior to Old Republic, and I'd say even the Amiibo or the Infinity things. But they showed us some more locations. We got like a desert area, or like a rocky cliff area. My opinion hasn't changed. If you're a Star Wars fan, look into that. I think you might like what you see. Finally, to close out the event, PlayStation had a PlayStation exclusive. PlayStation. Only on PlayStation. No, they had some glitches. First, they had it stuck on a screen that just had PlayStation, PlayStation, PlayStation on the middle and both corners. So that was hilarious. And then following that up, they actually started the new game and got 15 seconds in before it just stopped. It froze. And then the character was just standing there for a minute, and then all of a sudden it just cuts back and starts over from the beginning, and they finally do get it going off. They get it off the ground. But yes, starting off with an error was Naughty Dog's Uncharted 4. It looked really impressive, actually. And pretty good graphics, and I'm not too familiar with this one either, but at least it wasn't only shooting. There's other things that I saw in the trailer, so it's not a Call of Duty clone. I know that, but I'm just curious if the glitch is going to be patched for the release, or... Anyways, enough joking. It looked pretty solid. It wasn't as interesting to me as, say, The Last Guardian, or Fallout, or even Shenmue, but it looked solid. It looked good. So, for my closing thoughts, there was some really interesting things that they showed here. Project Horizon, the Dream Builder, stood out as being really unique, interesting things. And there's some things that weren't as great, like Call of Duty or Batman. You have to be in like the target or you have to be interested in those things. And I'd say the showstoppers were Final Fantasy VII's remake and The Last Guardian. Overall, I think it was a really solid presentation. Maybe leading with The Last Guardian, which I think was their biggest announcement, wasn't necessarily the smartest thing in this case, because everything else felt kind of lackluster compared to that. Again, not to say the other stuff is bad, but nothing else really stood out quite like that. Also, it was hindered by those few bugs right at the end. I think it was definitely a stronger performance and lineup than Microsoft or EA, but I think Bethesda with Fallout 4 may still have them beat. Maybe they're pretty close, But yeah, that's my thoughts. Go ahead and leave your thoughts down below. And see you tomorrow for the Big N, which I am very excited about. Till next time, Prince B out.